Hi all, it's your host Phil here. Just to let you know, this is a special and it's a cross promotion between Epic Phill Hotel Help on YouTube and if you're listening on a podcast, the Epic Florida Project. Now Simon's not here with me, so I'm doing this not on my own. I have Jon Self with me and we will be talking all the tier systems for the Universal hotels. So let's get going. Hi all, welcome back, and as you know, this is a cross promotion between Epic Phill Hotel Help and the Epic Florida Project. Simon's not here, it's just me because this was my idea and Simon's a busy man with his post rounds. So as you can see, we have a guest for this. Epic Phill normally is just me doing silly stuff, looking at YouTube videos, TripAdvisor and that, and giving you an idea of hotel you help. Well, I thought something a bit different this time, a little special. I thought to myself, why not we do a special episode where we're just basically trying to figure out the tier system of all Universal Studios Orlando's hotels. Now, I'm not an expert on this, so I've brought someone in who knows a hell of a lot more than me. So I'm welcoming in the Reverend Jon Self. Welcome.
Hello, and you poked the bear because I so hate it when people call me Reverend, but I'm more than happy and honored to be a minister here in the Midwest United States.
That's your Twitter for me, see, because I see it.
I know. Well, it technically says pastor. I prefer that, but I'm being very picky. So that's a me issue because in my country that becomes more of a bigger deal, and I'm
right.
like, so I can barely do my job now.
We'll call you pastor after the meal.
You're perfect. You're perfectly fine, Phil. I don't know that I would consider myself an expert, but this will be like my fourth podcast about resorts in the last 2 weeks because everybody's excited to come back, and I feel bad for you in the UK who are all excited and waiting to see if our country will do something.
Well, we're letting you in as from Monday, the 2nd of August. It would be nice if he reciprocated, Biden, but if he doesn't, I'll come next year. I've already missed a year. I can get on with it. It's not
exactly.
So, people, as I said, we're going to be explaining the tier systems from the Universal hotels. Now, a lot of people don't necessarily understand this from Hard Rock all the way down to the end of the summer hotels. So what we really want to know is if you could explain to us from the top tier what benefits they get, what the hotels are like, and all the way down to the bottoms of what minimal benefits they basically get. Also, explain towards the end, if you do know, what benefits a pass holder can get from getting these hotels as well.
Okay, I'll scribble that down. Okay, real quick, and all of these are going to be referenced. You can find all of this stuff online and blogs and other stuff that I've written since I'm now a part-time blogger. I wrote an article for Universal Family Vacations, and it's called Complete Guide to Universal Orlando Hotels and those kind of things. Basically, Universal has made it as confusing as Disney has, and there are 4 tiers. There's the premier hotels. If you're an old school Universal person, you might know as the legendary hotels or the legacy hotels. Those are Hard Rock, Portofino Bay, and Royal Pacific. Those are the ones usually you will associate with Express Pass. If you're unfamiliar with Express Pass, that's the one that gives you basically a shorter line like the old Fast Pass system, except you don't have to book it for most of the attractions, except for currently Velocicoaster and Hagrid's Magical Creature Motorbike Adventure, because they just added Express Pass to the Bourne Stuntacular either yesterday or today. When we're recording this. So you're down to just Velocicoaster and Hagrid. You don't get Express Pass. You get boat access, which is probably one of the best things. And unlike if you're used to staying at Walt Disney World, the Universal resorts are literally the hotels are right there by the park. You can walk an easy 5-minute walk from Hard Rock. I believe it's a half mile. Sorry, I'm not doing my kilometers conversion for you, but it's about a half mile to the parks. Royal Pacific is about it's a little bit farther away, and Portofino is about a 10-minute walk. So we'll say it's a little less than a mile walk, but you have boats that drop you off in City Walk. It's very simple and easy from there. Those are really the hotels you associate with being expensive, but Universal's version of expensive is not Disney's version of expensive. When I tell people, they're like, because the premier hotels coordinate to the deluxe hotels at Disney. There's not a criticism that Grand Floridian and Poly and Contemporary are great hotels on the monorail, but they're at least 2 times more, often 3 or 4 times more expensive than the Universal version.
Okay, and what benefits would you get with the top ones then?
Besides the Express Pass and the boat, you would of course get early park admission, which all Universal Orlando guests get early park admission. Going down the list, you've got obviously access to way more fine dining, and usually during COVID, it's been different. Usually you get priority access dining in City Walk. So you don't have to make a reservation. Now notice the way I very carefully word that. Usually that's how it works.
Okay.
If you've been to Universal Orlando lately, one of the things we usually, when we promote Universal Orlando, we talk about, well, you don't have to make a reservation, you don't have to plan things. That is not currently true when it comes to dining. Food service throughout the United States, and it may be the same in UK for you, Phil. People don't want to work low-paying jobs just to get by, and it's been so hard for business to get people back to work because we've been trying to prop the economy up. And so, not trying to make a statement, I don't know what the solution is, but it's really a problem. I mean, Universal was the first to go to raising minimum wage over anything. They're doing anything they can to get people in, but they're just still very short-staffed. And so it's hard. It's become much harder to get dining. So that's why I want to be careful and not oversell it.
That's fine.
Talked about the boat service. We've talked about, I think I've covered all the big things, but if you're looking at staying at the premier hotels, you're staying there because of Express Pass.
Oh, definitely. Because they're quite expensive.
Right.
Yeah. They're quite expensive if you buy them daily. It actually works out as a quite a good deal if you stay at the hotels.
Right. You could break it down lately. Now, granted, a lot of these prices are buying them a week of or the day of, and so it's going to be way more. Universal jacks those prices up very quickly when they see they're selling, because they have a limited number of Express Passes they can sell, or it defeats the point. If, as one of my friends says, if everybody's special, nobody's special. Yeah. So they've got to be careful about that. But Express Pass for one person, the unlimited version, which is what you get with the premier hotels, you can, if you decide like me, and I will do this when I go down in September, if you decide you want to ride the Incredible Hulk 8 times in a row, I can go through the Express line 8 times in a row with the unlimited, if that's what I choose to do. 8 is my limit, by the way, just in case you're wondering. I'm in my mid 50s. I can only do so much. You can do that. But if you purchase those day of, I know this week, they run you about $280 per day per person. Ooh. So if you have a family of 4, let's be conservative, that's $1,000 US. I know I can book. Now, granted, I work with travel agents. I have an annual pass, all these things, but I can book Portofino right now for way less than half of that. And it gets everybody staying in the hotel Express Pass.
That's fantastic. And also, if I'm right with these nicer resorts, it's gone from the top of my head. I hate when that happens. You know, when you've got a question and it just
sometimes it happens to me on Sunday morning in the middle of a sermon. It's really a bad thing.
See, people, this is why I don't always record them with people and do it on my own, because you wouldn't believe how many times I re-record parts of it. But yeah, with these higher hotels as well, as you say, they have better fine dining in them as well, don't they?
Yeah, that's the only other thing. And I want to be careful. Let me go back and see, because when I was there in May, the fine dining wasn't as fine. No, it was good, but service was very, very slow. And the menus were more limited. However, having said that, a general rule, and granted, I write mostly about Universal, about 10% of my writing is Disney. So please take that from what it's considered to be. Okay. You can get the same basic meal with the exception of the very high-end Walt Disney World dining, which nothing compares to that. There's a reason it costs you $200 just to sit down. You could sit down in a really nice restaurant, even the Palm, which is a really nice restaurant at the Hard Rock, and you can spend half what you would spend at Disney on the equivalent meal. And the quality is still the same. So you've got to always kind of remember that. But both parks are really struggling with Food service. If you, an article I edited the other day about Ohana, you really don't want to, their reviews were not good. They would have been, if you're doing an epic Phill hotel podcast about Ohana, it would have been, I can't find any 5-star reviews. That's how bad it was. But yeah, people expected way too much. And that's the thing we have to remember. We often remember things way better than they were.
Yes, well, that's why when I do the normal reviews and when I go to TripAdvisor, I always say to people, you'll find more reviews for people upset than you'll find people happy, because more people want to complain than actually go out there and put good stuff out about places and people who work there and everything.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, having been at all 3 of the resorts, the pools are great. Portofino is clearly targeted more towards the couple or older, maybe adult group, because it's kind of Italian, looking for more of the romantic setting, relaxed setting. Hard Rock is exactly what you think Hard Rock would be. And Royal Pacific is, they've done a lot of improvement with Royal Pacific, but Royal Pacific was clearly the 3rd level of the premier hotels, but they've done a lot of work and the pool's more kid friendly. I just told somebody that today. And they've improved their grab and go thing. And they even have added resort refillable mugs at Royal Pacific, which wasn't really a thing at the premier hotels.
I must admit, out of all 3 of them, if it was for things like Halloween Horror Nights, I've always wanted to stay at the Hard Rock. Mm-hmm. It's just, easier to when you leave the park.
That's correct.
I would say, especially, doesn't Royal Hard Rock have a special way into the park on their own as well sometimes?
Well, Hard Rock and Portofino on that side, on the Universal Studios Florida side, there's a walkway where you'd have your own security system that you walk through, and it's very simple, very easy. I've done it dozens of times, and it's very easy. If you're a person, as we're going to talk about the value and value plus hotels, if you don't like going through the security hub at Universal, which is good, but it can be annoying, because I compare it to staying off site and having to park at the TTC to go to Magic Kingdom. Yeah. It's one of the main reasons I don't stay off site and go to Magic Kingdom. I don't want to go through all that trouble just to get across the lagoon. The security hub is not that bad. Staffing's a little better, but there were weeks during really busy days this July that you could be waiting 45 minutes just to get to the security hub easy. Oh, no. And if you're designing a hotel, a resort, you don't want people to have a bad experience before they even get there. That's part of operations. And so Universal's tried to do a lot of things to fix that. But if you're I would say, minus Express Pass, the biggest advantage to staying at the Legacy or the preferred hotels, or the premier hotels, is you do not have to go through security hub. I have a friend who always stays at the premier hotels. She didn't know there was even a security hub.
Oh yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Right. She has no idea. She's never seen it because she didn't have to go that way.
Yeah. And obviously when we get to the lowest hotels,
correct,
you do have to go through that security hub, unfortunately.
Yeah. We'll talk about some alternatives to that, but none of them are perfect.
I must admit though, out of all 3 of them, I've never walked around the Hard Rock. That's my last hotel to look around, because when I visit, I like visiting and have a look around the hotels as well. Royal Pacific, I think it's a beautiful hotel. It's definitely the family one.
Royal Pacific is a beautiful hotel, as we'll get to the preferred hotels.
Yeah.
The room quality is not as high, in my opinion, and obviously with the people I write for, the reviews we get in, is the room quality itself is not as high as even a hotel below it in the tiers.
Oh, I think I know which one you're going to go for.
Yes.
So I'll tell you what, that's a good transition. Let's move on to the next tier of hotels. So explain to everyone what you get with these. And I know
if you're familiar with the Walt Disney World tiers, there's deluxe and there's kind of levels of deluxe, is what we've been talking about. And then there's the moderates, which is very confusing, but there's different levels within the moderates. At Universal, there's the preferred hotel. Now, if you know your Universal terms, Universal overuses the term premier and preferred and prime, applying to parking and annual passes. It's a branding problem. Universal has always had a branding problem. They're probably never going to fix it, and that's okay. There is only one hotel in the preferred level. It is Sapphire Falls Resort, which arguably, let me look. I wrote an article for Touring Plans called Best Universal Park Tips for Solo Travelers. I'm not even sure if, that one's out. The winner of people who go on trips by themselves and couples is Sapphire Falls. It's the nicest resort of all of the resorts at Universal Orlando.
I think it's beautiful. I think the pool is beautiful as well.
Now, Portofino is an arguable point, but it's just a different aesthetic you're looking for. Sapphire Falls is the nicest one. The rooms are arguably the nicest. Some of my friends who own major websites that focus just on Universal Orlando, they prefer to stay there, and they obviously could afford to stay someplace better or higher, more expensive, and they choose to stay there. The pool, I don't think it's an arguable point, but I want to be fair. The pool at Sapphire Falls is the best one on site. It arguably is one of the best pools in the Orlando area for a resort, not for a water park, but for a resort.
Yeah, I must say, when I say Cabana Bay one, obviously you're allowed, before COVID, you were allowed to pool hop. Yeah. We went across when it was a brand new hotel, and I was not just the slide, not the greatest thing, but I was just blown away how beautiful it looked and everything, and the relaxed vibe it gave you while you was in it. Obviously, you have your resident duck, what seems to live in there, but
yes. But yeah, Sapphire rooms are the nicest. They seem to be a little bit larger, and yes, Touring Plans and other people go in there and measure the rooms. That's how annoying it is to do all this work. It's a little bit nicer, a little bit better set up. I need to circle back to Premier. I forgot. The nicest bathroom is at Portofino Bay.
Oh, really?
Yes, I can confirm that. And one of my associates, I'll call him friend, he may deny me later after a podcast we just did, but Seth Gabersky, who writes the Unofficial Guide to Universal Orlando, he raves about how wonderful the bathrooms are at Portofino. He would say maybe you should stay there just for the bathrooms.
I like that.
Because of all the setup. Now, Sapphire, your best comparison is if you don't need Express, if you're like me and you have a Premier annual pass that gives you Express after 4, or you're just going for Halloween Horror Nights, or you're like Phill and you're going to stay for 20,000 days when you come over.
22.
I know it's going to get larger as you keep getting pushback, but and you don't need Express. Sapphire Falls rooms are basically the same design as Royal Pacific, except with improvements, because in between the two hotels that you can walk between is a convention center. So if you've ever stayed there and there's been convention events, the convention people stay at Royal Pacific and Sapphire Falls. And so they're targeted for the same thing. There's a big walkway between Sapphire Falls. You're like, it's like I just walked into every convention hotel in the world. Now, if you don't know where it is, you won't see it, but it takes you that way. And so everything is designed for more of that convention type feel in that area. But the rooms, I don't think it's debatable. Of the Universal hotels are the nicest ones.
Yeah.
Clearly they are the best, I would argue, of the standard size room, of standards hotels. If this is all of Walt Disney World, anything of the standard hotels with 2 queen beds, that standard generic basic size, Sapphire has the best rooms.
Yeah, I would have to agree. When I've walked, even just walking through Sapphire Falls, I've always been blown away how great it looks. Like Universal should have maybe just put it up that level and just made it a higher level one.
But they didn't want to do that because that creates too many express passes.
That's a good point.
And that's why they kind of did that. And that's the reason right now, if you're somehow able to come.
I've always wondered why they haven't done a 4 p.m. express pass for that hotel.
That's a good thought. They're really trying to get rid of the 4 p.m. express. Now we're talking inside baseball of Universal. They're trying to get rid of that.
But that's why you make it. I know you can buy them, but that's what I mean. Make it special for that hotel only.
You haven't been able to really buy them for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you can see they're trying to phase it out.
Yeah.
But that's really the issue is we can't add more express. So they create that. But if you're going anytime soon, on an annual pass rate, now I realize that's a lower rate than you may find with your travel agent. Sapphire Falls during Halloween Horror Nights was $134 a night.
That's
US.
Good. Yeah, that's
right.
Good.
That's a bargain.
Yeah.
When the DoubleTree, which is a perfectly nice hotel that you've even reviewed. I think you've reviewed lately. I think I made fun of you in comments, actually. Yeah, I believe I did, actually. Yeah. Which is really a downgrade from what they used to be, is running $100 a night, even at my discount. Ooh. And I'm like, I would stay at Sapphire 5 million times more than I would at DoubleTree.
Well, yeah, again, Sapphire has that extra, they've got the boat again, they've got the water taxi.
Right. And that's the other thing I was going to say is Sapphire Falls has, you're going to see this trend. The higher the level of the hotel, the better the dining is for what Universal calls full service. That's table service we used to Disney, because you can't use the same names to offend each other. They have a nice full service dining place, but they don't really have a food court. They have a quality grab and go, but they don't really have a food court. But they have an excellent, please take this as a Baptist minister in the US. They have probably they have the best bar, the best quality product served at a bar at any bar in the Orlando area.
Oh, really? I've always gone past the bar, looked in it, but it's never been open when I've...
Now, notice I had to change my language because I know there's another hotel coming up, and I can think of a couple places at Walt Disney World that have more amenities with the bar. But if you're just looking for the combination of food and the rum and the other things that go with that and the quality service of the team members, that's the best bar in the Orlando area.
That's interesting. Maybe you should, have you done a review on that bar on its own? I
have not. But of course, Sapphire Falls hasn't only reopened, a couple months ago?
Yeah.
So I don't think I've done a review. I know somebody else has. I could look it up and maybe post it later for you, but I don't think I haven't. But finishing that thought, pool's great. You have boat access. That's literally, you just walk from your room, walk out to the boat drops you off in City Walk. So you have, once again, avoid the security hub, which is going to be a recurring theme I'm going to keep mentioning. Makes it very easy to go back and forth. The boat gets you there. I think the boat comes about every 15 minutes. So if you time it right, on average, every 7.5 minutes, you're going to go out. So if you leave your room, it takes you 5 minutes to walk to the boat. You're going to be in the park 20 minutes from the time you leave your hotel room.
Yeah, and obviously the boat's just so relaxing as well.
Right. And this came up in another podcast, so I'm mentioning it now because apparently a lot of confusion. They're called water taxis, but you do not pay for these taxis. These are free for everyone.
Really? People didn't know that?
Yes, this came up with some of my travel agent friends for another podcast, that if you are a part of Phil's Facebook page, the Endless Summer Appreciation page, I'm sure I will post that at some point when that podcast comes out Monday. But that's a mostly Disney-based podcast. We talked about Universal, and that was one of the common things that people thought water taxi meant you paid.
Yeah, I suppose if you're not really used to that sort of thing, you could fall into that trap and not realize. So
I didn't know that. I actually changed an article and said, like, it's coming out 25 top things you need to know before Universal. I added that in the 25 because I hadn't thought of it.
Yeah. I suppose because I've been coming for like 10 years now, that's just something I know off the top of my head now. So yeah, I suppose if you're a new person or someone who hasn't only been once but not really been to Universal at all, they're not going to really know that stuff. So yeah, it's a good point to actually put that across to people.
Yep. I think those are the big things. Lobby is beautiful at Sapphire Falls. I know we don't go to hotels for lobbies, but if you want to get your proudly serving Starbucks from their cafe there, because they do not technically have a Starbucks. They have proudly serving Starbucks. And I don't know if Phil's a Starbucks person, but if you're a Starbucks person or married to one, as I am, as I pull up my Starbucks app to make sure there's enough money on there, you know the difference. But the coffee is considered to be good at Sapphire Falls for those who do it. I think that's all the big things, but think of Sapphire Falls as equal quality to the premier hotels, if not better, except you do not get Express Pass.
Before we go down to the next one as well, I just want to point out to people, I'm not sure if you brought up, every Universal hotel has a Universal store as well, don't they?
Yes, that gets into, we can do a whole nother podcast on this. That gets into a contract that they did originally. Every Universal property, even if it's called Islands of Adventure, must have a Universal Studios store.
Right. So
and call it Universal Studios. So every property they have has to have a Universal Studios store. And there are specific rules, and it must be called the Universal Studios store, even if it's in California Airport, it's Orlando Airport, it's got to be called the Universal Studios store. And some of that gets into the Marvel contract, but that's a whole different podcast.
That's a totally different right. So let's get into the next, is it 2 hotels, I believe now?
The next level of hotels, and I'm grabbing my cheat sheet so I don't mess up, because I get these messed up because Universal does not do a good job of branding these. The next level is the Value Plus. Value Plus is Cabana Bay Beach Resort,
one of my favorites,
and Aventura. Just for placement, I know it's hard for you to visualize. The premier hotels are surround the 2 land parks, and I'm using Universal's terms, calling them land parks, surround them. There's another section not far away on the campus where you will find Cabana Bay Beach Resort, Sapphire Falls, and Aventura. It's very near Interstate 4.
Yeah.
That's also where Volcano Bay is located. If you've driven on Interstate 4 and seen the Krakatoa volcano, this is the area in which these 3 hotels are: Sapphire Falls, Aventura, and Cabana Bay. They are called Value Plus because originally Cabana Bay, when it first came out, was considered a value hotel, which the fact that you would call Cabana Bay, with everything that comes with Cabana Bay, when I was getting it in 2014 for less than $100 US a night, call that a value hotel is just amazing. They must have forgot what they were doing when they built that. No, I'm not trying to oversell. Cabana Bay has lots of problems we can talk about.
Yeah, but I've stayed there, I think, 3 times now, and the only fault I really have is the size of the suites, generally. But other than that,
I mean the family suites.
Yeah,
the ones with the sofa bed.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I think they should be slightly bigger, but the hotel, I can't fault it. A lot of people have fallen for the trick of the bowling though. They didn't realize how to do the pricing on that. My family, unfortunately, the night when I was deciding to chill, they went down there and they had to spend a hell of a lot more, because instead of asking me how to do it, they went there, thought it was one price for all together, and then they realized, oh, this is a lot, because the kids were there. They had to do it, so they had to shell out a lot more.
I mean, it's not a bad deal for bowling. You just kind of, if you think it's a perk of staying in the hotel, which actually it is currently, because last I checked, only Cabana Bay guests could use the bowling alley.
It's a perk if there's something like a storm or hurricane going on. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. That's a whole different discussion, but it's not bad pricing for bowling in the U.S., especially in Florida. But if you don't know that you're going to spend probably $15 a person, $15 US a person, and you got 8 of you or the groups you bring, you may suddenly have to take out a loan to pay for your trip. I get that. But the Value Plus is the next level. That's Cabana Bay and Aventura. Aventura is right next door to Sapphire Falls. It's to call it next door is being generous. I mean, when you pull in the parking garage, it's really the same parking garage, just for both hotels, Sapphire Falls.
You could call it an extension to Sapphire Falls.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I was trying not to confuse the guests, everybody, but it's just one hotel that's in a set in 3 sections. I'm doing this motion. No one can see this on the podcast, in 3 different little pods, and there's an elevator that takes you up, and you easily get your rooms. Aventura is clearly targeted towards probably me or someone younger than me that's going as a couple or a single.
Well, this is
because it's so. Go ahead.
Shock you. I just didn't like it.
Well, I've heard you say that before,
yeah.
And I'm not saying that I like it because it doesn't have the theming that I would expect to have. It's fairly.
I think what is with me is when I come to Orlando, if I come to your hotels, Universal or Disney, I'm looking for proper theming. That type of hotel I can find anywhere in the world for me. Correct.
I think that is a very valid point, with the possible exception of the Bar 17 rooftop.
Yes,
because on the rooftop, there's a bar up there. You can see. On a good night, you can see Walt Disney World. And if you have this idea listening to Phill that Walt Disney World and Universal Orlando are nearby, don't. They're at least a solid 20, 25 minutes apart. And you can see Walt Disney World. You can get a great view of Volcano Bay at night with the volcano doing the colors. It's a great experience.
Yeah, great view of Universal as well, of the Islands of Adventure.
And Aventura arguably has the best, I want to be careful. No, I think I can say this, has the best adult targeted food court in all of the Orlando area.
Yeah, it's a lot of different types of foods in there.
Right. You got the bao buns, you got the bowls, pizza that's more kind of that artisan type pizza, not there's anything wrong with that, but not the more kid-friendly pizza I might order at Dockside and Surfside when I stay there. But it's very straightforward. If you're one of these people who wants to show up, and I don't know why you go on vacation to do this, and have all your Netflix and your Hulu and your Disney Plus and your everything else, the whole system is just set up where you punch a few buttons and it magically appears on your TV.
Yeah, it's all run by a Apple iPad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all done by an iPad, Apple iPad. There's some exceptions, but the lighting's done that way. The heating and cooling is done that way. I know that my spouse is going to be staying there with a friend in a couple of weeks from this recording, and they're looking forward to the robots delivering them pizza, and so all these things. Aventura is probably a good solution based on Universal needing another hotel in the lower price point. I would have preferred more theming, but in Universal's partnership with Lowe's, because every single hotel we're talking about was built by Lowe's Hotels, which is kind of a major upscale hotel chain in our country. If you're just going, as a single or an individual, I'm tentatively scheduled to stay there in October, and it has everything that you need. Cabana Bay, on the other hand, if you're going with kids or teenagers, there's enough. If it rained, if you're having a non-park day, you can entertain a group of teenagers at the resort by itself. Yeah, there's a lazy river, and you're thinking a lazy river. I'm not talking something that just covers your bedroom room lazy river like you might see at some other hotel. This is a legitimate lazy river, not to the level of Volcano Bay's lazy river, but it's a legitimate lazy river that you can be in. And you're like, well, I'm just going to go around, because I did this one afternoon. I'm just going to go around 4 times and I'll go back to the room. Well, about 45 minutes later, I'd gone around 4 times and was like, oh, I'm going to be late for the next thing. And so you want to bear that in mind. As Phill said, Cabana Bay has a bowling alley. It has the best, if you're into this, and I was at one point, the best fitness center on site, with the Jack LaLanne Fitness Center upstairs kind of there. It has probably arguably the best arcade up there if you need to entertain teenagers for a little while. Yeah. Starbucks. We now entered the Starbucks world. Once you get to the lower level, Starbucks is at every hotel in the lobby. So if you're a person who needs your coffee in the morning and don't want to do what people do at Magic Kingdom and rope drop Starbucks when they get to Magic Kingdom, Aventura has it, Cabana Bay has it, Portofino has it also, but it's located closer to the pool, so I kind of skipped over that. But Cabana Bay is lower, and you won't get this rate because I'm doing some other things for it. But I'm staying at Cabana Bay in September for $75 a night plus tax.
Well, that is cheap, people. Trust
exactly, because now I'm spending the first night on an annual pass rate at Surfside for $69, but that's open to anybody with an annual pass. Yeah. Anybody with an annual pass could get Cabana Bay for $89 when I'm staying. So I'm not saving a whole bunch, but I was like, why am I moving? I'm spending $75 to stay at Cabana Bay. You should expect, when I wrote this up, I said, you should expect when things return to normal for Cabana Bay to be 150. I don't think it will be. I think it'll be about 120.
They've got to be careful with this, because you don't want to outprice everybody as well at the same time.
Because they were running about 150, 160 before COVID. Now, if you want to stay in the suites like Phill just described, where you can sleep 6. I would say sleep 5. You stick the cranky teenager out on the sofa bed, out in the lobby area. That usually runs you about, depending on when you go, 25 to 45 more a night. But you get the better bathroom with the 3 sections. Yes. And so you can have 3 people doing 3 different things and getting ready in the morning. So if you're trying to use your early park admission, which is available at every single Universal hotel, and especially if you're going to Volcano Bay before we move to the next lowest level, if you plan to go to Volcano Bay, you should stay at Cabana Bay or Aventura. Cabana Bay is literally next door to Volcano
Yeah, they
Bay.
literally have a special way to walk in as well, don't they?
Literally just walk over through a gate. It will take you from the lobby. Now, the lobby's not near Volcano Bay, but you can walk from the lobby. I've done it to Volcano Bay entrance and have your Tapu Tapu band on and be in there in 12 minutes.
One thing I would say now, before we move on to the other two, is also with Cabana Bay, what people have got to realize, if you're looking for the proper restaurants and that, you're not going to get this at Cabana Bay.
That's a valid point.
You're going to get a food court and you're going to get the typical normal, what you would call food court foods, burgers,
right,
pizzas, and, you know, sandwiches, things like that.
Now, I'm sure Phill and I are going to disagree about this, but if you kind of like Dockside and Surfside in a minute, if you order the right things at Cabana Bay, the Cabana Bay food court's arguably one of the best food courts around. If you don't, grace and peace upon you. Okay. If you try to order a specialty sandwich or you don't get the Cabana Bay burger or you get one of the salads, don't do that. Okay. Keep it simple and stick with the things you know. That'll be a recurring theme. We get to Dockside and Surfside in a minute. Yeah,
but well, funny enough, you say that. Let's move down to them right now. So obviously, before we get into them as well, people, just to let you know, as he's told you before, I do actually run a Facebook group for the Endless Summers hotels. I think it's called Endless Summers Appreciation and Hotel, whatever it is. Anyway, it'll be in the show notes underneath, people. So I have got my own group. I should remember the name, but I've made it super long.
You've made it very long. It's like Endless Summer Help and Appreciation something.
Yeah, but people, there's over 5,700 members, I think, right now. There's always people willing to help. So, and these hotels, as he's about to explain to you, are not actually on Universal property.
Yes, that's the tricky part. If you are a veteran of the Orlando area, and my son and wife used to go all the time, there was Wet 'n Wild, which in its day was the nicest water park in all of Orlando. However, Universal bought it kind of secretly many years before this, and they kept doing it. It was located on Universal Boulevard, so it was near Universal Orlando. They announced they were going to close Wet 'n Wild, and they were making money off Wet 'n Wild. They announced they were going to close it, and then little while later, they said, "Oh, and we're going to build Volcano Bay," which is arguably the best water park in the Orlando area.
Oh, I'm glad someone agrees with me.
It's also the most expensive. Yeah, it's also the busiest. So let's just be clear that Volcano Bay, I should probably write an article. Well, actually, I'm in the middle of one of things you need to know before you go to Volcano Bay that if you screw up, it's going to make your day terrible because you can have a horrible day. It's like if you go to Volcano Bay unprepared, it's like going to Magic Kingdom unprepared. Good luck. Yeah. Dockside and Surfside are considered the value resorts, and I get in trouble when I make this comparison, but to circle back to comparing, if you're familiar with the Walt Disney World resorts, Cabana Bay and Aventura are on the same level as Art of Animation and Pop Century.
Yep.
Dockside and Surfside, which is a confusing branding name, part of the Endless Summer Resort, which is both of them, is equal to the All-Stars at Walt Disney World. Now, Phil's cringing. If you're not watching, if you're listening, he's cringing for a really good reason. There are many things I don't like about, and we can cover those here at the end. I don't like about Dockside and Surfside.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I would stay at Dockside and Surfside for the same price I would stay at the All-Stars every day of the week. And currently the All-Stars are at least twice as much, if not 3 times more than Dockside and Surfside. And I can tell you, in case you're wondering, from Cabana Bay or Dockside, you can book your boarding pass for Rise of Resistance and take your Uber over to Hollywood Studios. And you can get in there in the first group and save yourself at least $100 a night staying at Dockside and Surfside. Commonly, Dockside and Surfside, they try to keep them under $100 a night for the standard room. And if you're thinking the standard room is going to be something great, please don't. It's a basic room. It doesn't even come with a coffee pot. You do get a refrigerator.
Or a microwave.
Or a microwave. Well, microwaves have become less common everywhere, so I've kind of lost that out. It is located on Universal Boulevard. So if you're not familiar, I'm sure Phill in another thing, I may do this at the end, he gets his little Google map out and shows you where International Drive is and where Universal Boulevard and International Drive cross. And so Surfside and Dockside are just as close to City Walk as Cabana Bay is. It's just you don't know it because you're kind of on International Drive.
Yeah.
And so that can be disorienting for some people.
Yeah, totally agree. And people with International Drive, obviously, you may not have all the universal perks, but with International Drive, you get all the different perks, all the different types of golf, all the restaurants, all cheaper places. So if you're on more of a budget, these are definitely the hotels for you, because you have so much places and different types of places you can eat up and down International Drive. It's ridiculous how much is down there.
Mm-hmm. And if you stay, if say you have a group of, no, I'm okay with saying 6. I was uncomfortable with 6 at Cabana Bay, even though Cabana Bay, we skipped the Volcano Bay suites. They have 2-bedroom suites.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That can easily sleep 8. Now you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay what you would pay for a premier hotel, but it might be worth it if you want to sleep 8 in the same room and keep track of children. The biggest perk of Dockside and Surfside is if you have a group of 5 or 6, or you have some people who you're going to stay for a long time and you're not sure how well they're going to do after 5, 6, 7, 8 days in a hotel room, you can get a suite at Dockside and Surfside for normally $130, $140 a night. And I say suite generously. It's a bigger room. It comes with the microwave. It comes with a coffee pot. The main room looks like the standard room, but there's a separate entire bedroom. Mom and dads, I hope you're hearing this. There's a separate bedroom where you can close the door and you get your own TV and you can have it all set up and everything will be fine. And it easily sleeps 6.
Oh yeah.
On 3 queen beds, easily. And you can't ask for a roll away at a small fee, and you could probably get 2 of them and sleep 8 if you had to.
I was like, the thing about the suites as well, they also have the picnic tables inside. So it's easy to sit down and eat around the table as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so if you're looking for a group, that's a good way to go. But do not think these are 3-star hotels by every level of 3-star. But I would argue that they are barely 3-star hotels. Whereas Cabana Bay is the top of the 3-star level, and Aventura maybe 3.5. These are just barely in the 3-star level because, I mean, Phill, you've stayed there. The walls are thin.
Very.
The towels are better, but they're very scratchy. And please, I know I can be an entitled bourgeoisie, middle class, Midwest US person, but the towels were terrible. Because just like the All-Stars and just like any International Drive hotel, they're targeting a lower budget audience.
Yeah.
That means more children, because you're not going to stay at Portofino and put 4 children in a room. At least I hope you
it's just not families as well. It's also people who literally just want to go to the theme parks and go back.
Yes. And also Universal this may ruin people staying there. Universal has made a huge cut into the cheer groups, football groups, other teenage groups from Disney, and they're staying at Surfside, Dockside, and Cabana Bay, just so you're aware. So if you plan on going in December, you might want to be aware of that when you go to Surfside or Dockside or Cabana Bay, because they will have half the hotel booked with cheer groups and football groups and other things like that.
I would like to think Dockside, though, being 2 massive towers, they would try and put the cheer groups out on one side, and try and put all the normal guests on the other side, hopefully. But I would also say with these hotels as well, I said, these are basic. Your pools, they're okay. There's nothing special. You got 1 pool in Surfside, great lake views from it, and then Dockside you actually have 2 pools, but you got what's got sand around it. So Dockside will have sand. So you will actually say, in my opinion, Surfside also doesn't have an indoor bar, while Dockside does. So if you're looking for slightly better, if they're both at the same price, I will say to people, and I've not even stayed at Dockside, I've stayed at Surfside, I would probably choose Dockside right now. It's got a few extra little things what might make it easier and better for you.
I, having stayed at both with my Dockside mug and my Surfside mug, which are refillable mugs, which are kind of a disaster at those places. You got to watch the pricing. It's not the same as it is at the other ones.
Yes,
but that's a whole different podcast. We won't do that right now. I would tell you, if if it's an adult trip, I would tell you to stay at Surfside because it's smaller and less noisy. However, the negatives are, just as Phill just said, there's not an indoor bar, but it's less crowded and less noise. And it's a little easier to get to the restaurants on International Drive from Surfside than it is from Dockside.
Yeah, the car park route.
Right. It's a little easier. I'm testing that out again in September, so it's a little easier.
There is another route as well through the car park thing. If you're in, I believe it's Tower 2, but it's the one what's more near to International Drive. If you walk right to the end of that tower, the bottom floor, there's an actual door you can walk in and out of, and that makes the route so much quicker.
Right. And in case you're missing the inside discussion we're having, these are located pretty much close to International Drive, but Universal has done everything humanly possible to make it difficult for you to get off of the property.
Yeah.
However, there's just certain limitations they can't avoid. But I just think it's a little easier at Surfside. It's easier to get to the Walgreens, which if, say, for instance, you're doing what I'm doing next trip, where I'm doing a split stay starting at Surfside, then going to Cabana Bay, I can go to the Walgreens, pick up all my diet sodas. If anyone knows me, I have a diet soda addiction. Pick up my snacks, pick up whatever I want, and then just go to Cabana Bay. It's probably, what would you say, Phill? 4-minute walk to the Walgreens from Surfside and Dockside. It's not long.
And the only thing you might have is the traffic light system.
Right. That's why it's easier at Surfside.
Yeah.
The traffic works for you.
Yeah, Dockside, you're talking, you're going to need to take 2 sets of traffic lights minimum.
Right.
Surfside, you're talking about 1 set, and it's not the main one. So it's actually an easier road to cross as well at that point. Also, Surfside's got right next to it outside. If you walk out the car park and walk left, you've got, is it Twisty's ice cream?
You have Twisty Treat. Is that what it's called there?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I already have a plan to go to Twisty Treat. There's a Thai place, and then there's an Applebee's, which I already have a gift card for. So I'm already.
And there's obviously Subway's right next to it as well. It's quite useful.
So if you're looking to, whether you're an individual, a family, or anything in between, if you're looking to save money, and you don't think the express passes are needed, and you're looking to save money, especially on a shorter trip. I don't know that I would stay. I know you're going to be testing this out. I don't know if I'd stay for 2 or 3 weeks at Surfside and Dockside. I would do it at Cabana Bay maybe, but if you're staying a short amount of time, I would not hesitate to recommend anybody stays at Surfside or Dockside. And you're probably going to do that for less than $100 US a night.
I think the difference for me is when I come, I'm coming with like 2 to 3 sets of families. So we have to think about the pricing because we have to pay for expensive flights over, unfortunately, and then we've got to pay for all the theme. Well, I don't have to pay for Universal because I'm an annual pass holder, but But with Disney and that, I wasn't even planning to go Disney this year or if it's next year, but we've got a new niece who's coming. She's 6 now. She could be 7 next year. She's never been before. So straight away, Disney has to be done at that age group.
Yep. And I'm not arguing that point. I encourage people to stay at Surfside and Dockside and go to Walt Disney World.
Yeah. So just to put across over to everyone, every single hotel from the top to the bottom all have gyms. Do they all have arcades?
I'm hesitating. Yeah. I don't know if if Sapphire does. I think they all have arcades of some kind.
Yeah.
The best one is at Cabana Bay Aventura has the virtual arcade, but that was closed when I went in May.
Yeah, that's because of COVID, obviously.
Right. So in fairness,
360 VRs on and everything in there.
Correct.
And so what we're basically saying, people, top one, you're going to get your, the passes to get onto the rides, and that was a big help. Better dining and better facilities and everything like. Going all the way down to the bottom, though, every hotel from top to bottom are going to get you early park admissions. What's a benefit for me personally? I think it's fantastic, especially if you're coming in holiday periods. That because I've been looking online literally just the last few weeks, and it's been chaotic. And I don't know how you lot do it personally. I always come off peak because even now, off peak's not really off peak anymore. Everyone's clocked onto that, so more and more people are doing it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I had to write an article suggesting going to a slower time, and that slower time got down to 5 weeks during the year.
Yeah. So. I mean, yeah, so that is also at these hotels you've got your kiosk as well. So if you get your Halloween Horror Night tickets, you don't have to go all the way to Universal. get them in the hotel yourself there. That's saves so much time, because one thing I can't stand about the kiosk at Universal, and it is a bit of a rant, is it's all outdoors. It is baking hot, and it's horrible sometimes to be waiting in that line.
If you are staying off-site, I'm going to give away my best trick here. If you're staying off-site and you need to get your tickets, your media, upgrade your tickets, get your pass, don't go to the parks. Go to the concierge desk in City Walk. You walk through, if you walk through security, you'll see Bubba Gump's off to your left. You'll see the Starbucks and the pizza place off to your left. There's a concierge desk. They can do everything you need right there, and the line will always be shorter.
Yeah, it's a lot better. It's a lot easier as well. Is that everything?
I'm just going through these things. I want to remind us, and when you book through your travel agent or you book through whoever you book for, make sure you get the place you're staying at. If you're staying at Dockside or Surfside or Cabana Bay, I don't know about Aventura, make sure they send you a day before the mobile check-in link. There'll be an email they'll send you a day before. If you're booking through a travel agent, make your travel agent do this. And all my travel agent friends are cringing right now because it's a pain. Make them do this, that you get an email, because you push the button in the email, you pay your final bill. And when you arrive at Cabana Bay or Dockside or Surfside, you go in a mobile check-in line, which is going to be very short. I wrote an article for Touring Plans about it. It's going to be very short, as opposed to the check-in line I'm currently seeing at Cabana Bay this week, which was 45 minutes to an hour just to check in. You can get that done. Make sure you get that email and you take care of all that, or you could be checking in and waiting an hour. And if you have children with you, or you just got off a long flight from Europe, you do not want to be standing in that line for another hour.
Oh, no.
You just don't want to. And another perk of staying on site that we've glossed over that might be important to some people, Universal is doing package delivery. If you buy something in the park, they can have it delivered to your front desk, and you don't have to carry it around all day. And since all package drop-offs, if you don't want to carry it, goes to the City Walk Universal Studios store now, that may become a problem. If you have it delivered to your hotel, it's very easy. I did it several times last trip. And we even did it kind of ironically on one trip that was kind of in the height of COVID. And they did it for us.
That's quite useful then.
So, and the only other thing you may have mentioned is, if you are going to stay at Universal, if you're going to vacation at Universal Orlando, and you'll have to check your prices and what you're going to do and how you plan to do it for more than 3 days, you seriously need to consider a Universal Orlando annual pass. It's still the best deal out there. The season pass, which may sound like it's not an annual pass, it's an annual pass that has significant blockout dates. That's what they call it there, where you can't go Christmas week, you can't go the month of July, you can't go to Studios Florida when there's concerts. But quite frankly, if you're wanting to go to those parks during that time, you're braver than me. I never go to the parks during that period of time. It's too busy and you're blocked out. I had a season pass for years and years and years. The current price of a season pass for 2 parks for a non-Florida resident is $349 for a year. Okay, just to give you perspective. Now, my Premier Pass, which gives me every perk under the planet.
Is that the top one?
That's the top one.
Yeah, that's one preferred.
Right. That's the one that gives me 15% off all food. That's the one that gives me a free Halloween Horror Nights ticket. That's the one that gives me valet parking if I want to use it. That's the one that gives me Express Pass after 4. When I repay for it at full price, because I've been gone for too long, it's only $649 US. Okay. If you're pricing that against the annual passes elsewhere, you'll see why I say that.
Yeah.
If you have an annual pass, this is not in dispute. Now, I know this is painful for some of you at the moment in the UK, but any annual pass hotel, someone with annual pass who books a hotel at either Surfside, Dockside, Aventura, or Cabana Bay is paying an incredibly low rate during September. No negotiation during the week. It's $69 a night at Surfside and Dockside, $89 at Cabana Bay at Aventura. No negotiation, no tricks, no nothing. I know. That's the reason. That's right. Now we expect that those prices will go up. However, in October, in the height of Halloween Horror Nights, They're only $20 US more a night if you have an annual pass.
That's a great deal.
Now, it doesn't mean just because you have an annual pass, you're going to get the lowest rate. That's not always true. However, it takes no effort to send a message, send an email. I've done it recently. You send an email to your travel agent and you say, I want the annual pass rate for this week. And they send them back to you very quickly and they book it and take care of it. And when the rate goes down, they change it for you. They do all that work for you. I have a booking set up in October that's set up that way at Aventura for $105 a night, I believe is what it is, US. But I'm looking online and I see that's 150, 160, 170. You may discover if someone in your party has an annual pass that it might save you just enough on them getting a discount on food, because the discount can cover everybody at their table. If you're going to, like a Phil's preferred pass, if no one else has an annual pass, his 10% discount can cover everybody. And if you just spent a big group, you just spent $300 on food, that's 30 US right there you just saved. And then if you're saving $50 a night in a hotel, your annual pass is going to pay for itself. And if you're staying off site, parking is free with the top 2 tiered annual passes.
Yeah.
Which is currently 26 a night, 26 a day to park it for Universal. It's 25 at Disney.
Oh yeah. Before we actually go, just to point out just to let you know, every Universal hotel, if I'm right here, quote me if I'm wrong, obviously, you do have to pay for parking. Every
Theme park hotel in the Orlando area, you have to pay for parking.
Yeah, obviously.
At Surfside, it is 15 a night. Sorry, let's make it simple. The Value hotels, it's 15 a night. At the Value Pluses, it's 18. And I am totally blanking what it is at Sapphire. Yeah. It's something in between that. I want to say 20. I could be wrong. And at the Premier hotels, it is 25. It's less than parking at City Walk, but not much.
But people coming from abroad, if you're watching or listening to this as well, just a little tip: if you tell them how long you're staying, they usually do a better deal for you and will slightly put the price down for you per day as well. So that can
if you're staying more than 7 days.
Yeah. So
that's the general rule.
Don't panic. Well, this has all been fantastic. So right now, I just want you to plug everything you do so everyone can find
everything you. I do. Do we have time for that?
Okay, everything Orlando theme parks.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, those of you who don't know, you can follow me on Twitter at Pastor Jon Self. John is spelled Jon. Self is SELF to get all this other information, because I work as a pastor here in the Midwest at an American Baptist church, doing a lot of writing in that world. That's why Phil's telling me not to plug everything. But in the Orlando theme park things that are common knowledge at the moment, I'm in negotiation with 2 other groups, so I can't announce that yet. I write as a guest author for touringplans.com. If you're unfamiliar with Touring Plans, maybe you should check it out, because they're really upgrading their Universal Orlando stuff. And you can even get a guide and even use their little app, their Lines app, to give you the actual time of wait, not what Universal tells you for anything. I write for Universal Family Vacations, which is focusing on helping people to make a Universal vacation, is connected with Pixie Vacations travel agency. And that's why I know that if you say to the travel agent, they will take care of it. They will even take care of it while they're in Mexico touring something and make sure that it's good for me, before they realized who I was. And they were like, oh yeah, they just did it because I was a normal guest, not somebody else. And lastly, I write for Universal Food Blog. You can Google that, or you can find it at uogrubhub.com. And it's kind of like a food blog and information resource, except we actually eat the food and taste the food and pay for the food, not like some other food blogs. Yes, I'm being nasty. And so they're really trying to reach out and try to solve the Universal situation, because Universal has upped the quality of food in the last 7 years. It's at least 3 times better than it was 7 years ago.
Okay.
If you're someone who remembers the old food court in World Expo, back when Back to the Future was there, that was the worst food court in all of the US.
Okay, people. And just a quick shout out, if you listen to a couple of Theme Park Trader episodes, he's actually on them as well, talking about the food in Universal. So go and check them out, Ryan, and that great podcast. So
we're gonna hold on. I thought it was against the rules to say something nice about Ryan.
No, unfortunately, I'm one of the people who love Ryan. So
Okay. I apparently contractually can't say anything nice about Ryan, so we're good.
yeah, and well, Ryan's from the same part of the area as me. He's down the road from where I live, so he's not that far away from me. So we're from the same areas, so I can't say anything horrible about him. Guys,
Okay, when I'm not guesting anymore on Theme Park Trader, we'll know why now.
Anyway, everybody, thank you very much for watching. If you've watched it on Epic Phill Hotel Help, give the video a like, comment down below if there's anything else you might want to know. Hopefully we can help you out on that. Obviously, subscribe to Epic Phill. If you're listening on a podcast, if you're listening to on the Epic Florida Project, as I've done both shows together here, please give it a 5-star review on Apple. Subscribe to us. Me and Simon are always trying to keep people up to date with the news, what's generally going around in the theme park areas and outside the theme parks as well. And from John and me, thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.
See you then.